This is the weirdest freaking thing, man. I do not understand what is going on. It's soup season, 1800s edition. I'm just not gonna give up without a fight. So hello everyone, welcome to our kitchen. Lovely to have you here actually. You know what? It's very cold in here, it's cold outside, need some soup. So what am I gonna do? Make some chicken noodle soup? I guess I could, but I'm not. Instead, I'm gonna dust off my cookbook from the 1800s, 1896 to be precise, so it's on the cusp there, but it still counts. This is called the original Boston Cooking School Cookbook from Fannie Farmer. Now this used to be the cookbook in the kitchen throughout the US of A. I guess maybe until Julia came along. Am I right? When you're reading a recipe from this cookbook, you really have to look at it from the perspective of someone from the 1800s. A lot of things do not apply to us anymore. They're using lingo that I don't really understand. Methods have changed dramatically. We have fridges now, which is great. So yeah, you have to look at it from a different point of view. And that's important because I've attempted to make the apple pie, the clam chowder, and the chocolate nougat cake, all with results where you're just like, okay, well, I don't really know what they're saying, so maybe don't make the recipes from it and use another cookbook. I'm not. Now, since you last saw me use this book, something's happened here. It is dying. Every time I open it, it dies a little more. The glue in the spine is super crusty, so as soon as you flip open a page, it just starts cracking. Pages are actually very delicate. It's not like my copy of the book is from the 1800s. It's from May 1974. So flipping through the soup chapter, and there's a lot of soups that you've heard of, many that you haven't. And the challenge today is to pick some that I have no idea what they are. And I found some goodies, such as hygienic soup. That's what it says. That's what it says here. So that sounds yummy. Duchess soup. Saint Germain soup. And imperial soup. So I don't know anything about these 4 soups here, but I intend to figure out something. Making soups from the past. Who's with me? We're gonna start off making our homemade chicken stock. We got to do that. Well, I mean, you could do the carton route, pre-made if you want. I hope everyone is okay. Of course, I have these cartons on standby just in case things go terribly south. Always have a backup plan. So for each one of these soup recipes here, we're using the same stock. White stock number 3. So you go to the page of where that is. So heading over to the white stock 3 page, there's no real recipe for it. You have a recipe for 1 or 2. All it says for white soup stock number 3 is the water in which a fowl or a chicken is cooked makes white stock. Presumably you could probably follow bits of the 1 or the 2 if you would like. I don't think I need to do that because I have this, which is the Fannie Farmer cookbook. It's like an updated version of this. A new edition of this great classic revised for the 90s. So if I go to this revised version, she's got a rich chicken stock right here. The water in which a fowl or a chicken is cooked makes white stock. Rich chicken stock right here in the Fannie Farmer cookbook would fall under that. So let's follow this. Now the recipe in this book is gonna give me 7 to 8 cups worth of stock, and that's not gonna be enough for me. I think like if I just double the recipe, 16 cups of stock is much more my speed. So get your big ass pot. Start off with 2 whole chickens. 1, 2. Now I should mention I am keeping the chickens whole as that's what the recipe's calling for. 2 4-pound chickens. But also I'm gonna need the meat down the road here. Well, some of it, and then the rest I'll save for, anyway, here's 8 cups of water. But we are doubling it, so there's 16. Get that out of my face just for a second. So instead of 2 carrots, I have 4.5 into thirds, into fourths, however you fancy. And yeah, I haven't peeled the carrots or anything like that. They will be fine as is. Into the stock pot. I need 3 stalks of celery times 2, and then all the leaves and all that, that's good too. Cut that in half. Into the stock pot. 2 onions, cut in half, but I'm not gonna peel those either. Badass. Well, you can take that sticker off. So 2 teaspoons of dried thyme, 12 crushed peppercorns, some salt. So I'm gonna need a bay leaf. Now I'm doubling the recipe. I'm gonna need 2 bay leaves. You wanna get nuts? Let's get nuts. But it's a new year, let's practice safety. Please do not drive. Now that I have this up to I'm gonna say that is a boil, and this is something that I'm working on for the new year here. Distinguishing the difference between a boil and a simmer. I know what the difference is, but I gotta be a little more mindful, like when I'm making a stock, so I can cook it a little more evenly. So yeah, right now this is a boil because it's many bubbles, but I wanna bring that down to a simmer where there's only a few bubbles. And that's a simmer, where it's just evenly cooking everything, a few bubbles coming up to the top of the surface here, rather than just like a hardcore boil, you know? Low and slow. So I've had this simmering for 25 minutes. Well, first it all had to heat up. That took like 25 minutes. And then I had it simmering for 25 minutes. So I'm gonna say it's around an hour later. So I gotta get this chicken out of here. Oh, there she is. Once the chicken is semi-cool enough, I can start peeling. I'm gonna need an entire boiled breast meat, so try to keep that whole. Bones and the skin can go back into the stock pot. You can save the cooked chicken for soups, besides the ones I'm making, salads, sandwiches, crate fillings, or other dishes calling for cooked chicken. Or you just eat it. Since the water level has dropped here, let me add a little more water. Simmering, I'm gonna say around 5 hours. Also let it cool. It's cool to touch now, and there's a nice thick caked on layer of fat on the surface that I need to skim. And I wasn't gonna do that off camera, I wanted to wait for you. So let's do it together. Isn't this fun? I've tasted the stock, it is nice. I can't 100% tell you to make your own. Stock is one of those things where I'm like making it and then halfway through making it, I'm like, you know, why don't you just buy it? All the recipes call for a white stock, number 3, and white stock. So in my head, I'm thinking this probably needs to be as clear as possible, so skim off as much of that fat as you find, at least until you lose interest. All right, that's good. I've lost interest. Okay. So I have this right here, typically for steaming, now for straining. Yeah, this works. This works great. There's gotta be a quicker way. Is this smart or stupid? Probably a bit of both. Extract as much of the stock as I can out of the chicken bones and the veggies. Oh, shit. Okay. I'm thinking a glass bowl so that we can see what the stock looks like. Strain it through a sieve and the rest of it. We got a hell of a lot of chicken stock in front of me right here, which is great because I'm making 4 soups. This should cover it, I hope. So we're gonna start the party off with hygienic soup. Y'all, hygienic soup. What makes hygienic soup so clean, is what you're asking? This is what I'm thinking. Limited ingredients, like what you can find in the pantry, stuff that you have on hand. Quick to make and easily digestible, I guess. Because I think the purpose of this is to serve people who are ill, that are having a tough time eating things. So you're like, oh, here's some hygienic soup. Because I believe this is a take on emergency soup. An emergency soup is exactly that. I need 2 cups of scalded milk. And sometimes I'm like, what the hell is that? It means bringing the milk to nearly a boil, but not all the way there. It's like 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Heat goes on. So that milk is scalded. That's great. But Cart's gotten a little ahead of the horse here. I don't need that just yet because first I need to focus on my soup making. So I need 6 cups of my chicken stock. Yep, this is when things get interesting here, right at the beginning. I gotta add in 1/4 cup of oatmeal, old-fashioned rolled oats. What do you say? I guess when this recipe was written, they weren't so old-fashioned, very in fashion, but in they go into the boiling stock. So now I have to boil this for 1 hour. And when she says boil, she means boil, not simmer, because she makes distinctions in other recipes. So, do you want me to cover it? You don't say. There's just like, it's open for interpretation here. So I think if I just kind of have it on a more gentle boil like this, and if I keep the lid kind of, yeah, like that. That's what Julia Child has taught me. So there's a little room to breathe. Keep it boiling, but on a gentle boil for 1 hour. I think that's the safest bet. Maybe Fannie Farmer's not using rolled oats when it comes to the oatmeal, because I don't think I need an hour here. The oatmeal is uber soft already, and it's been half an hour. Siv, thank you. I think we're gonna be able to achieve what we need to do anyway, let's just do what she says. She says to pass this through a sieve. And when I say pass this through, including the oatmeal, that's what she says, including the oatmeal. How do you pass oatmeal through a sieve? That actually goes through quite easily. Okay. I guess the whole point is that you get the oatmeal so soft that it's easily passed through a sieve. Okay, this is my theory here, and it's just a theory. But I think the point of what I'm doing right now is that if I am serving this to someone who is ill, thankfully I am not, but if I were to and they couldn't eat solids, then we pass it through the sieve. Because here's all the oatmeal that didn't go through, there's everything that did. Some of the tougher parts that are left behind. So this is what I'm gonna do here. Is in a small frying pan here, 2 tablespoons of butter, and 2 tablespoons of flour. I gotta cook those together. At the same time here, I have my scalded milk. 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Yep, exactly. Add the milk. Why don't you get a whisk? Now I have the flour and the butter that have been cooking together, and it's like a paste, right? And then that's just gonna go into the soup to thicken it up, and season with some salt, and of course some pepper. Just kinda wanna sort out my life here for a second, so just get this back into the saucepan. Not you, me. And then I'm just gonna keep it warm. Just breathe. I'm gonna have to use a white bowl for this because I don't have anything darker. Let's ladle up some of my hygienic soup into my bowl. I have a little parsley in the fridge, and just so you can see the damn thing, I'm gonna add it on top. Order up! 1 of 4. All right, sanitary soup. Hygienic soup. I hope you are sanitary. Show me what you got. Oh, okay. There's few flavors, but they are very strong. I tell you, I wouldn't be so damn proud of my hygienic soup if I hadn't made my own chicken stock, because that is the star of this thing. You really just can, it's got a nice chicken kind of flavor coursing through the veins of the soup. And then it's creamy, and it's very nice. The oatmeal, that's in there too, yeah. I'm a big fan. That was good. I would say that the hygienic soup is a winner. I'm just thinking now I have all that chicken. You could take some of that chicken that you boiled up. You have that in the fridge hanging on standby. If you have someone, you throw it in your oatmeal soup if you wanted to, you know? If you're up for it. There's my hygienic soup with some chicken in it. Oh yeah, that's a nice touch. Duchess soup. is up next. This is gonna be a heartier soup, I believe, than the old hygienic, stick to your ribs kind of thing, with the addition of cheese too. So let's get a moving here. Into the big bowl of amazing stock, and I need to ladle, I need four cups. Isn't this helpful? Don't drop it. I don't really know what she's saying here. 2 slices of carrot cut into cubes. I have a feeling if I just take a carrot, I'd say that's acceptable. Would you say that's 2 slices of carrot? Now it says I need 2 slices of onions, and there was an answer for me online about kind of what this is, and I think what I need to do is almost like I'm slicing up onion for onion rings. So 1 slice, 2 slices. Throw the rest on the ground, mandatory. She says nothing else about what to do with this onion, just 2 slices onion, quote unquote. So, I mean, I'm not gonna just serve it in the soup like this. So I'm going to, against Fannie's wishes, I'm not sure actually, I'll hear it in the comments if I'm wrong, as I'm just gonna kind of turn this more into a dice. That just makes more sense to me. That's what you want in your soup, my friend. Grab your favorite saucepan, in goes a 1.5 tablespoons of butter. Melt that, add the vegetables. So we gotta cook the vegetables in the butter for 3 minutes. After precisely 3 minutes, not a second more, in goes 4 cups of my chicken stock. It says in the recipe 2 blades of mace. So thanks to some internet sleuthing here, I have found out that a blade of mace is half a teaspoon. So there's a full teaspoon of mace. That would be ground mace, of course. Boil 15 minutes. So I'm gonna heat up 2 cups of milk while this thing is boiling away for the next 15 minutes. So firstly, I need to clarify something regarding the onion. Fannie Farmer was correct. I didn't need to dice it because I just need to keep them slices because we're gonna be straining it. The vegetables are not gonna stay in the soup. That being said, she also called for 2 blades of mace, which is the mace like intact before you ground it up into like a mace powder. I added a teaspoon of mace, ground mace. I can't strain that. It's gonna be in the soup. So when I take a taste test of this, it's got a very heavy flavor of mace. You have to really like mace. Before I go any further with the soup, I need to just pause, regroup, and start from scratch. We're starting from scratch over here with the Duchess. 1.5 tablespoons of butter, 2 slices of carrot, 2 slices of onion. Keep it like that. 3 minutes. In goes the 4 cups of chicken stock. And here's the kicker. Since I don't have that blade of mace, I'm gonna add ground mace to taste. Okay, I would say that was around like 1/8 teaspoon of mace that I added. How's that taste, mace? Yeah, any more than that, then you got something going on with mace. I don't really, it's just like, it's very overpowering flavor if you add too much. The first time I added way too much. That, just right. So once that's up to a boil, I'm gonna boil it for 15 minutes with the lid kind of like, and 3 tablespoons of butter, 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. Gotta cook that together, gotta make a roux again. All right, so Siv, thank you. Strain this, I gotta strain it. So yeah, the carrots and the onions don't end up in her finished soup here. I've seen other Duchess soup recipes where the carrots and the onions would stay in there, and it's kind of weird just to remove them. You gotta listen to what she said though. This finished soup does not have the carrots and the onions. They have been strained. Keep in mind, you could keep the vegetable. Incoming hot milk. That's 2 cups of milk. Here's the roux, flour and the butter cooked together. In it goes. Salt. Pepsi. Pepper. Pep. Back into the saucepan. I don't know why she wanted me to remove the vegetables. I apologize to all the Fannie Farmer purists out there. I really do. I don't intend to piss you off, but we have some very fine looking vegetables here, very fine, tender, cooked nicely, that would really do well in a soup. And we remove them, we strain them. And I just don't understand why we did. So I got my carrots, now I have some of my onion. People give me grief when I go off book here, but I think this is something we can all get around, right? Vegetables into the soup. I have a 1/4 cup worth of a grated mild cheese. I'm using Monterey Jack, and we gotta get that in there, and you can serve the damn soup once the cheese is melted. With me and my sensibilities here today, what I'm eating, I feel like I could use a little more cheese. Again, I don't want to piss anyone off, but I am going to add in a little touch more cheese. It's not much, you know? Okay, I have to have that melt. While that's melting, let me just clean up. Serving time. A little parsley on top, just so you know it's there. Order up! 2 of 4. I think I'm gonna need one of my pills. If you know, you know. Hot. You know what would go really well with this? Some like crusty bread. I'm out. They bring a lot to what I've done here. The carrots and the onions. I can't imagine the soup without them. We were looking at like mace mayhem with that first attempt, so I'm happy that it's been redone. That is one creamy and cheesy. It was a delicious, very hearty stick to your ribs. I said that earlier, I'll say it again. That was the Duchess. Oh, geez. Oh, dear, dear, dear. All right, bring it on. Let's make some imperial soup. Couldn't find much information about this one. Anywhere, really. Imperial, something to do with an empire or something. Empire, the empire. We got some techniques in this recipe that have me scratching my head. So we're gonna find out about those along the way, but we're just gonna dive in like we did the other two. 2 slices of carrots cut into cubes. I just kind of have my own way of doing this right now. So I guess it doesn't really matter if these are cut into cubes or not. Just cut them into whatever shape you want because they're not gonna end up in the soup. 2 stalks of celery broken into pieces. It just says 1 small onion. I'm going to just, how about into slices? I think Fannie would be cool with that. I think what we're gonna do is switch up the pan for this one. Here's 1 tablespoon of butter. I think you know the drill by now. Go with the vegetables. And we just cook them in the butter for 5 minutes. So I have this cheesecloth here. This is like already kind of, it's convenient. It's like a cheesecloth sack, condom, whatever you want to call it. Why don't I dampen this first? That's what Julia Child would do. In goes around a sprig or so of parsley, 2 cloves, half a teaspoon of peppercorns, a bit of a bay leaf, but how about 2? How about 2? You know why. If I had a blade of mace, I would add that in, but I don't. I have my ground mace. I will add that in down the road, but I'll be safe about it. And then in goes the vegetables into my cheesecloth. Just tighten that up. Okay, I got my 4 cups of chicken stock. I'd say around a teaspoon of salt. Then we're gonna add the mace into the stock here. So just, this is a blade, so just use 1/16 of a teaspoon of mace. How about that? I am reading this recipe correctly. It says into the stock goes 2 cups breadcrumbs. I've like triple checked here. There, so that's interesting, isn't it? And now goes the cheesecloth. Maybe you want to completely submerge that, and the only way I know how is by switching my pan. Yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. We're changing pans because I want this cheesecloth completely submerged. So here we go. Okay. Bring that up to a simmer and simmer for 1 hour. I think you're just gonna have to keep a major eye on this one. I'm gonna do what I did with the other ones, kind of cover it partially. I don't really know what's going on over there, but we're just gonna have to trust old Fannie here. I've reread the recipe, and honestly, it's a strange one here. So maybe it's just not strange. I just don't really know what I'm making. Not just yet. Half a boiled chicken breast, and then you need to chop the chicken meat. So I could have just used any of the chicken that I had peeled earlier instead of doing whatever I'm doing. I didn't need a whole one. This step is gonna be painful if we're gonna do what I think we're gonna have to do. Chop the chicken meat and rub it through a sieve. How do you rub chicken meat through a sieve? That's gonna take so long. Oh, it's making it into like a powder? She wants me to rub the chicken through a sieve. That's what I shall do, at least for now, until I realize that there's gotta be some sort of modern day appliance I have that will speed up this process. I can get the job done much quicker if we make way for beam it in. Thank you. All right, so I have the whiz kit here, and I have used it in the past to pulse up some chicken, and I don't know if it's gonna give me the same results as what I got from this sieve thing, so I'm gonna give it a try and see what happens. What's the worst that can happen? Truly. Hold on to your butts. Yeah, just do this. This is much more efficient. That is 100% what we were after, and that took me seconds, Fannie, seconds. Sorry, I don't want to rub it in. This next step, I need to take 1/3 cup of blanched almonds, so I just have some slivered almonds. They've been blanched, and I gotta pound them into a paste. So I was gonna use my mortar and pestle, but that was efficient. So you know what? I've never used this appliance before. This is my immersion blender. I've used this plenty, but it came with this. It's like a little miniature food processor kind of thing. And I've never taken this for a test spin, so I think today might be the day. 1/3 cup of my almonds. Yeah! You know what's funny? Is Fannie wins this round. I'm just not getting it to the consistency that I was really expecting. It is almost a paste, but it's not all the way there. Oh yeah, all right, we got a paste. Bring the chicken into here. Almond paste. That's all completely blended, great. 1 cup of heavy cream. Add the cream, thank God. That's gotta be the most appetizing thing you've ever seen, eh? Look at that. Okay, so this stuff has been simmering for over an hour. I don't know how this is a soup. I don't. It's just, I mean, this is kind of exactly what I expected was gonna happen with this thing. 2 cups of breadcrumbs into 4 cups of stock, and this is my results. So, pass this through a sieve. I don't know how this is gonna go. This is gonna take for frickin' ever. You take the frickin' all of the frickin' breadcrumbs are in the cheesecloth. I do not see the vision with this recipe. So firstly, we gotta somehow get all the breadcrumbs out of this cheesecloth. Okay, so I don't know how to work with that cheesecloth just yet because all the breadcrumbs, as expected, have just absorbed. They're in the frickin' cheesecloth. So firstly, let's just pass all of this through a sieve. Why are we doing this exactly? You know what? It is the exact same product that's going in, going out. There is absolutely no point in doing this, passing it through a sieve. So that was a fun, pointless exercise. I'm not doing that. I have to try to get some of these breadcrumbs out of the cheesecloth. Ooh, hey. Remove the seasoning, she says, i.e. the cheesecloth. I do not understand what is going on. Let's switch the saucepan here, get this thing and this thing. And truth be told, when I was simmering this chicken stock breadcrumb thing, I did add an additional 1 to 2 cups worth of chicken stock because I was like, okay, doesn't this thing need more stock? Because I wasn't sure. She doesn't say anything about it, but I did so. And it still got absorbed. It doesn't matter how much liquid I added into that thing. It was just gonna, you know? It says to combine the mixtures. We have Fannie's favorite ingredient, which is half a cup of milk. So now I gotta reheat this thing. Really not sure what difference it's gonna make at this point, but I've been trying to blend the chicken and the almond paste into this other mixture, and it's just not coming together. The almond and the chicken kind of clump up a little bit in this mix here. What I'm thinking is like, what's the difference at this point if I just pass it all through a food processor one last time? It's all kind of a puree anyway, so like, what's the difference? Look how smooth that is. This is the thing with this recipe here, is I don't really know what else I can do here. I feel like I'm putting lipstick on a pig. So I'm just gonna serve it and we're gonna move on with our lives. It's the weirder recipe of the day for sure, but this is what we got. This is our product. Kind of looks like gruel. And of course my contribution, a little parsley on top. Order up! All right, imperial soup. Okay, the best part about this is the chicken almond flavor that's running through the whole thing. It's a nice little combo. The worst part is, I don't really get it. It's like a puree, but it's like a mousse. I don't really know what the end goal is with this soup, the imperial soup. Was it supposed to be making something that was uber thick and kind of like, I don't know. I shouldn't have taken the food processor to the end because it made it like an unbearably gummy, just kind of gross texture in the mouth. It's inedible, really. It just like, sticks to the top of your... Let me give myself a little credit here. Prior to me blitzing this thing up, it wasn't like this was like top notch. It was still a bit off, but I made it much, much worse. Yeah, that's the imperial soup for you. Rock on. Finally, Saint Germain soup, which I believe is a traditional French pea soup. And I was all ready to go with this one, and then I realized I had the wrong peas. I started off with sweet peas. This is all I could find in the grocery stores around me. And I needed to make a special purchase here, which is marrow fat peas. The difference between the marrow fat peas and a pea like this is that these are much younger. This is a more mature, larger pea. It was harvested much later in the process. It's gonna be starchier. Anyway, I don't need the green G's. Off you go. I don't know why I did that. Let's make it. Ah! Okay. Just opening a can. I don't know why I had to make a mess of that. Why am I doing this here? There are my peas. Oh yeah, they do look much older and just kind of bigger, and they got a duller color. Looks like they've been kicking around the block a little longer. I need to reserve around 1/3 of them off to the side. We're gonna need those later, peas into my pan, along with 1 cup of water. Add in a sprig of parsley, half of an onion, gonna keep it whole, and just a bit of a bay leaf, but if you don't know me by now, then you will never ever know me. 2 teaspoons of sugar. Now she says a blade of mace again. She loves mace, but I'm watching my mace consumption here. This is just like that seems about right. As just like, you know, a little under 1/8 teaspoon. 1/8 teaspoon of pepper and a teaspoon of salt. Up to a simmer, 1/2 hour. Okay, so it's taken me around 4 soups now to figure out a step that has been confusing me all day. Or multiple days, depending on how long you think it took me to make this video. You know that whole thing about rubbing the ingredients through a sieve? If I go to this Fannie Farmer cookbook here, the revised version, it doesn't have the same recipes as the other book I'm following. If it did, I would be following this one the whole time because everything makes a hell of a lot more sense. Obviously, techniques have changed since 1896 here, so instead of passing ingredients that don't really fit through a sieve, you can put through a strainer or a vegetable mill, or puree in a food processor or electric blender. So I feel like I could have done that the whole time with the oatmeal. With the chicken, which is what I ended up doing with the chicken, it doesn't explain much about the imperial soup consistency at the very end, because if I was supposed to do that through the whole soup, that's what I did, and I still got that gummy thing. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. We've moved on past that. We're focused on this thing. So what I'm gonna do is remove my bay leaf, and I don't know if I'm making myself perfectly clear here, but I'm gonna be using my immersion blender to puree this soup, or what we have of it so far. This feels good. That is the wave of the future. So, let me keep it on like a dull roar here, simmer, and I'm gonna add in 3 cups of my chicken stock, just kind of so you can see. As per all the other recipes here, I gotta make some sort of binding agent. 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, 2 tablespoons of butter. Gotta cook it together. So add that in, whisk that together, and I gotta bring this up to a boil and boil for 5 minutes. I can't get over how much milk I've used for these soups. It's just like, I guess milk was a big thing in 1896. Another cup, my poor body. Blend, 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 as well as the reserved 1/3 cup of my bone marrow peas. Apparently that's all you gotta do, apparently. Not gonna lie, I could use a little more salt. Not gonna lie, I could also use a touch or a hair more of pepper. Of all the soups I've made, this is the one that has the most color. I still think it needs just a little pop of green. Order up! 4 of 4. That is great, sublime. This was probably my favorite bowl of soup today, conditionally though. If I added half the amount of milk, half a cup of milk instead of a full cup, I think we would have been all the way there. Because it did add a nice creaminess to it, but it was like a milk flavor that kind of subdued everything else that I added in prior to. The flavor of the peas and the seasonings and all that stuff would have been just a bit louder, and I think it would have been just a bit better. Still, very solid bowl of soup. Got a nice kind of earthy pea flavor going on in there. Earthy, very earthy. As if Fannie would describe food as earthy. Since I had all those soups pretty much concurrently, it's not lost on me how much freaking milk we used. Actually, I can show you. Say around half a gallon of milk. Plus there was cream as well, so, you know, that concludes a very eventful day making soups from the 1800s. Fannie, always a pleasure. I must go. Must make haste. This was Jamie and Fannie. Bon appetit. Au revoir. Just not gonna give up without a fight. Okay. So, the imperial soup is frickin' bonkers, man.